India's story started long before it became a strong nation. In ancient times, many kingdoms appeared and disappeared, each kingdom leaving behind important ideas, art, and inventions. India had great texts like the Vedas and powerful empires like the Mauryan and Gupta. Then, foreign invaders came. They wanted to control India and change its history. Despite these challenges, India never gave up. She showed great strength and diversity. India faced invasions and rebellions, but it adapted and survived. So, what made India so strong? What helped it overcome difficulties? How did it grow into the India we know today? India's history goes way back, filled with fascinating stories of ancient cultures. The land of India has always been full of contrasts, from its beautiful rivers and mountains to its vast deserts and plains. This diversity played a big part in the rise of some of the world's earliest civilizations. One of the oldest and most impressive civilizations that appeared in India was the Indus Valley Civilization. This civilization began around 3300 BCE, in what is now Pakistan and parts of northwest India. The people built large cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and these cities were known for their smart designs. Streets were laid out in a grid pattern, and they had advanced systems for draining water, which was a big deal back then. The people of the Indus Valley were also skilled in crafts and trade, with evidence showing they traded with places far away, even as far as Mesopotamia. Sadly, the writing system they used is still a mystery, but their cities left behind a lasting legacy of their advanced ways of life. As time passed, new groups of people arrived in India. Among them were the Indo-Aryans, a group of people who came to India around 1500 BCE. They brought with them their language, the Sanskrit, and their sacred texts known as the Vedas. These texts became the foundation for the religion of Hinduism, which remains a major religion in India today. The Vedas spoke about rituals, gods, and the importance of living a good life, and they laid the groundwork for many of the ideas that still shape Indian culture and spirituality. Along with their spiritual teachings, the Indo-Aryans introduced new ideas of social organization, which led to the development of what we now call the caste system. This system divided society into groups based on occupation and birth. It was a way of organizing society that became deeply rooted in India's culture over centuries. Around 300 BCE, the land of India saw the rise of one of its most powerful and influential empires, the Maurya Empire. This empire was started by Chandragupta Maurya, a strong leader who established the first great empire in India. But it was Ashoka, Chandragupta's grandson, who became the most famous Mauryan ruler. Ashoka is known for his powerful change of heart. After a bloody war in Kalinga, he was so moved by the suffering of his people that he embraced Buddhism and dedicated himself to promoting peace and kindness. Ashoka's reign marked a turning point in India's history. He spread Buddhism beyond India, reaching parts of Asia and influencing millions. His message of peace, non-violence, and respect for all life left a lasting mark on India and the world. His reign also led to the spread of new ideas about governance, and his empire became one of the largest and most influential in ancient India. India's history saw its next great period of greatness during the Gupta Empire, which is often called the Golden Age of India. This was a time of cultural, scientific, and artistic brilliance that laid the foundations for many of the world's most important ideas. The Gupta Empire, which began around 320 CE, was known for its strong leaders, vast territory, and the flourishing of culture. The Gupta dynasty was founded by Chandragupta I, who laid the groundwork for one of the most prosperous periods in India's history. His son, Samudragupta, is often considered one of the greatest rulers of India. He expanded the empire through military conquests and earned a reputation as a great warrior. His reign helped turn the Gupta Empire into a center of culture and learning. One of the key leaders of the Gupta Empire was Chandragupta II, also known as Vikramaditya. Under his rule, the empire reached its peak. The Gupta Empire was a time when many great achievements were made in the fields of science, mathematics, astronomy, and the arts. India's culture flourished, and cities became centers of learning and trade. Mathematics during the Gupta period made huge advancements, with the concept of zero being developed. This idea, which was later spread across the world, changed the way people thought about numbers and paved the way for modern mathematics. The work of the famous mathematician Aryabhata in astronomy and mathematics also came from this time. His ideas about the movement of the planets and the calculation of time influenced later scholars in many parts of the world. In addition to math and science, the Gupta Empire also saw the rise of beautiful art and literature. The famous Sanskrit playwright Kalidasa wrote some of his most well-known plays, like Shakuntala, during this time. Indian art also reached new heights, with intricate sculptures and temples being built across the empire, many of which still stand today. The period was also known for great progress in philosophy, with scholars debating important ideas about life, society, and the universe. The Gupta Empire's influence went beyond India, with trade routes linking the empire to places as far as Rome and China. This exchange of goods and ideas brought prosperity to India and helped spread its culture across the world. The Gupta Empire was once strong. People called it a golden age because of its art, science, and strong kings. But nothing lasts forever. Over time, the empire started getting weaker, not all at once, but little by little. The rulers after Chandragupta II were not as powerful or clever. They couldn't control the local rulers, who began to act on their own. The whole empire started breaking into pieces, like a large wall with cracks spreading all over. One of the biggest problems came from outside. A group of fierce warriors called the Huns, from Central Asia, invaded India. They were not just any enemies, they were violent, quick, and determined. The Guptas tried to fight them, especially under Skandagupta, but each time the Huns came back, they left more destruction behind. The wars with the Huns drained the empire's money and soldiers. Temples were destroyed, farms were ruined, and people began to lose hope. Trade routes were no longer safe. Food became scarce in some places. Even gold coins started to lose their value because the rulers had to mix the gold with cheaper metals. However, nothing great lasts forever. The Gupta Empire started to decline in the 6th century CE. This decline happened because of invasions from foreign tribes. The Huns from Central Asia were a major threat. Even though the Gupta Empire eventually faded, its impact was lasting. It influenced Indian culture and the world in many ways. The ideas and advancements from the Gupta period shaped development in medieval India. But it wasn't just about war. Nature wasn't kind either. Crops started failing in many regions, and floods destroyed homes. Without enough food, people moved around, leaving their villages. As the economy crashed, the Guptas couldn't pay their workers or soldiers, and chaos spread. At the same time, religion in India was also shifting. More people were turning to Buddhism and Jainism, which changed the power of traditional Hindu temples. Without strong support, these temples couldn't hold communities together like before. Unity faded, and with it, the great Gupta Empire disappeared into smaller kingdoms that ruled only tiny parts of land. When the Guptas were gone, India didn't go silent. It just changed direction. Another group of invaders came, not from the north, but from the west. These new rulers were Muslims, and they had different customs, clothes, languages, and beliefs. One of the first big names was Muhammad of Ghor, who came from Afghanistan. After him, his general Qutb-ud-Din Aibak set up something new, the Delhi Sultanate. This was not just another kingdom. It was the start of over 300 years of Muslim rule in India. The Delhi Sultanate brought new architecture, like tall minarets and grand mosques. New styles of music and art mixed with Indian traditions. But their rule wasn't always peaceful. There were revolts, betrayals, and battles. Some rulers were just focused on war, while others, like Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, tried to create big changes. Some worked, some failed badly. Still, the Delhi Sultanate showed one thing: India could now be ruled by outsiders who brought their own culture and made it part of the land. Then came the Mughals. It all started with a man named Babur, who crossed the mountains from modern-day Uzbekistan. He defeated the last Sultan of Delhi and founded the Mughal Empire in 1526. But Babur wasn't just a warrior, he loved gardens, poetry, and beauty. His grandson Akbar took the empire to another level. He didn't rule by fear. Instead, he listened to people. Even though he was Muslim, he treated Hindus fairly. He gave them jobs, visited their temples, and even stopped taxes on them. Under Akbar, people felt more united. The Mughal Empire became very rich. Markets were full, cities were clean, and painters, poets, and builders got all the support they needed. Monuments like Fatehpur Sikri and later the Taj Mahal, under Shah Jahan, became symbols of a new India, one that was both strong and beautiful. The Mughals showed that foreign rule didn't have to mean destruction. Sometimes, it could lead to something greater, where different cultures lived side by side. But the calm didn't last. Another set of outsiders came, not from the north or west, but from across the seas. The British didn't come with swords at first. They came with ships, spices, and silver. The East India Company was supposed to be a trading group. But slowly, through clever deals and wars, they took over more and more Indian land. They used India's own rulers against each other. Whenever two kings fought, the company would support one side, and then take both lands later. Their power grew not by love, but by tricks. Soon, the company was acting like a real government. They collected taxes, set rules, and even had their own army. But Indians didn't stay quiet. In 1857, Indian soldiers in the company's army started a rebellion. It wasn't just about guns or uniforms, it was about respect, religion, and lost pride. The revolt began in Meerut and spread fast. People from all backgrounds joined: Hindus, Muslims, farmers, princes. They wanted to push the British out. They wanted their country back. But the British were too strong. They crushed the rebellion, but they also got scared. The British government decided the company had messed up and took full control of India. This was the start of the British Raj. Now, India was not ruled by a king in Delhi or Agra, but by a queen sitting in London. British officers controlled the cities. Indian industries were closed so British goods could be sold here. Farmers had to grow what Britain wanted, not what the people needed. Slowly, people started suffering. Education was only for a few. Jobs were few. Indians were treated like second-class citizens in their own land. But in this darkness, something amazing began. At first, educated Indians asked for simple rights. But when the British ignored them, the demands grew louder. Mahatma Gandhi led the fight not with violence, but with peace. He marched, fasted, and told people to stop buying British goods. Others like Subhash Chandra Bose, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Bhagat Singh also joined, each with their own way of fighting. The world saw India rising, and by 1947, after years of struggle, India was free. Freedom came, but not without a price. India was split into two, India and Pakistan. This partition was fast and poorly planned. Neighbors became enemies overnight. Trains full of innocent people were attacked. Families were torn apart. Over 14 million people moved across borders, and more than 1 million died in the violence. It was one of the biggest and most painful human migrations in history. Violence broke out in many places. Many lost their homes and loved ones. It was a time full of pain, confusion, and fear. Apart from this, India had a big population but very little wealth. Most people were poor. There wasn't enough food. Many didn't have clean water, proper clothes, or homes. Factories were few, and the economy was weak. There were also many different languages, religions, and communities, and bringing everyone together wasn't easy. Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first prime minister, tried to bring hope. He focused on building large dams, factories, and science institutes. He wanted to modernize the country without giving up its soul. Under his rule, India followed a plan-based economy. But it took time. Results weren't quick. Then came the Green Revolution in the 1960s. At that time, there was a serious food crisis. India was relying heavily on foreign food aid. With help from scientists like M.S. Swaminathan, new farming techniques were introduced. Farmers were taught to use high-yield seeds, fertilizers, and machines. Slowly, India began to grow more wheat and rice, especially in Punjab and Haryana. This saved the country from hunger. For the first time, India started feeding itself. In politics, things were changing too. After Nehru died in 1964, leadership passed on. Indira Gandhi, Nehru's daughter, became Prime Minister in 1966. At first, many doubted her. But she proved to be strong and bold. In 1971, India fought a war with Pakistan, which led to the birth of Bangladesh. This made her very popular. But soon, troubles grew. The economy suffered. Prices rose. There were protests across the country. But then, a dark period came. The emergency, 1975 to 1977. Indira Gandhi declared a state of emergency, saying the country was in danger. Many people were arrested, including political opponents and journalists. Freedom of speech was stopped. It was a time when democracy itself was under threat. When elections were held again in 1977, the people showed their power. They voted her out. But later, she returned to power. Her time in office remained a mix of achievements and controversies. She was finally killed in 1984 after ordering a military attack on Sikh militants hiding in a holy shrine. Post-independence India, through all its ups and downs, kept trying. It built schools, hospitals, roads, and industries. The country may have struggled, but it never gave up. It kept walking, one step at a time. By the 1990s, India was facing a new kind of crisis. The economy was on the edge of collapse. Foreign exchange reserves had run so low that India could barely import oil for a few weeks. So in 1991, a major decision was made. Economic reforms were introduced. India opened its doors to the world. Earlier, the economy was closed and controlled by the government. Now, it has become more market-driven. Foreign companies were allowed to invest. Trade rules were relaxed. Slowly, change began to show. The IT sector became a shining star. Cities like Bengaluru turned into tech hubs. Indian software engineers started working for companies around the world. Outsourcing became big. Jobs in call centers and IT parks grew rapidly. Bollywood, India's film industry, began spreading its reach. Indian movies started gaining popularity in other countries. At the same time, yoga, Indian food, and music became global trends. India was not just an economic player now, but also a cultural ambassador. But progress came with problems. As cities grew, pollution increased. Traffic became worse. The gap between rich and poor widened. While some lived in luxury, many still struggled for basic needs. Farmers continued to face hardships. Water shortage became serious in many areas. Politics also became more competitive and complex. Coalition governments, regional parties, and corruption scandals became part of the story. Yet, democracy stayed alive. People voted in record numbers. Protests, social media campaigns, and activism rose. India also strengthened its defense. It conducted nuclear tests, built satellites, and became more assertive in global affairs. Indian scientists launched missions to the Moon and Mars. The world started noticing this once silent nation. Even in sports, India made progress. From cricket victories to Olympic medals, Indian athletes began to shine on global stages. Women, too, began breaking barriers, flying planes, becoming CEOs, leading banks, and running companies. Still, challenges like unemployment, rising fuel prices, climate change, and communal tensions remained. But despite the bumps, India kept moving forward. Today, India stands at an important point in its journey. It is the world's most populous democracy. It has one of the largest youth populations. It is sending rockets into space and building digital highways across villages. But the road ahead is not easy. India wants to be seen as a global power, a voice that matters in world politics, climate talks, and trade deals. It is becoming more visible in groups like the G20 and BRICS. It is doing business with countries across Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas. Startups are booming. Entrepreneurs are building apps, launching brands, and attracting global funding. New technologies like AI, electric vehicles, and renewable energy are reshaping the economy. Education is changing too. Online learning, coding, robotics, and international exposure are giving Indian students a new edge. At the same time, traditional knowledge like Ayurveda and classical arts are being revived and respected. Still, questions remain. Will India be able to provide enough jobs for its growing population? Can it reduce poverty while keeping the environment safe? Will it bridge the gap between cities and villages? What are your thoughts on this? Kindly share with us in the comments below. We would like to hear from you. And if you've enjoyed this, kindly click on the subscribe button for more entertaining historical contents. Don't forget to also like and share. We'll see you in the next video.